Okay, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Minute Channel. This is Café LeBlanc, podcast number 14. And today I want to introduce my two special guests here, Eha and Aeon from Persona Spain. So thank you so much for joining in us today. I really do appreciate you guys coming in into the channel, and really do appreciate that. So if you guys could introduce yourselves, you can tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do in your channel and everything. All right, Eha.
Hi, my name is Eha. Oh, well, my actual name is Leon, but yeah, Eha for the time being. I'm from Spain, I'm 22, and I have been a fan of the Persona series since roughly 2013 or 14 or so, when I started playing Persona 3 Portable in my PSP. And well, nowadays I'm just another member of the Persona community here in Spain.
All right, well, welcome. And Aeon, can you introduce yourself and tell us about yourself?
Thank you so much. I'm Ion, admin of Persona Spain, which is the Spanish Persona community. And well, we share all kind of stuff related to this franchise and other Sega Atlus games as well. And you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. And recently we opened a website. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So if you guys want to follow them on any of their social media, I have that in the link in the description. So just check them out if you want to. I love their content there. I follow them on Instagram and Twitter. I think that's how I contacted you guys there. So awesome job there. So we're going to go ahead and start here with a couple of questions just to kind of break the ice and get to know you guys a little bit better. So we all here play Persona 5 Royal, and it's been out now for some time, about 2 months, I think. So what did you guys think about the game overall, as in a review? Like, what do you guys think of the game? What did you like? What did you not like? Would you review the game in like a score base? What would you give it? Aeon?
Yes, well, I'm pretty bad assigning scores. That's not my thing for sure. But in fact, we were given an early copy of the game to analyze it. Well, I did a list of the best aspects of the game, the worst, if any. But I couldn't give it a score. For me, it's almost perfect in every aspect. So it will be at 10 in any case for me. I consider Persona 5 Vanilla an almost perfect game. It blew my mind when I played for the first time. But I thought that the game was not, couldn't be more perfect. But Royal blew my mind again. I'm perfect it again.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. When I originally played Persona 5, I was like, oh my god, this game is perfect. It has everything that I wanted to in a Persona game. It improved a whole lot and everything. But when I went ahead and played Persona 5 Royal, I was like, the changes made me realize how many things Persona 5 actually missed when it came to like gameplay and story type bits and everything. So I'm really glad they did a lot of the changes. Eha, did you have anything to add about that, or did you have a score for the game?
I'm not a scorer either. I don't usually like putting scores on things because I think so much complexity can be reduced to 1 to 10. So I'm more critical than Ion. I think Persona 5 was a brilliant game, one of the best in our generation. But I couldn't help but compare it to Persona 3, which I personally like more. But in Royal, like he said before, there were so many things added. I was very skeptical at first. I was thinking like, yeah, this is gonna be like fast. Yeah, only the pillow can little thing here and there. But yeah, Royal was a tremendous surprise. I loved the changes, the main changes in the storyline. But one thing I have to say is I found it to be easier than the original Persona 5. I played my gameplay of Vanilla on normal difficulty, and I had a great time. It was challenging. It was, what I expect from a Persona game. But Royal felt way more easy. way easier for me. I had to change the difficulty to hard, and even so, I beat the game without any problems. I think I died like 4 times in all the game. So that's a downer for me because I find I'm looking for the difficulty and the challenge, and I felt Persona 5 Royal was a little lacking in challenge.
I think I agree with you there. For the majority of the game, I actually played it on normal. And then at some point, I think I changed it to merciless, and then I forgot
Oh,
about it, and I
wow. Yeah,
completely
merciless all
changed.
the way.
Uh, it just completely changed it, and I actually forgot about it. I think at some point I either switched or just forgot about it. I entirely don't remember that. But I think I was actually level 99 by Shiro's castle, which
Yeah.
was so weird for me. And in a sense,
So
I was like,
high
how
level.
how am I level 99
Yes.
already? Like I'm not even done with the game. I have like all this stuff and everything. So I was surprised about that, but at the same time I get it. I get what they did it. They expected new people to come into the games and kind of
Exactly.
everything. So
Yes.
that brings to you can always change the difficulty if you want more difficulty and everything. My issue with Persona 5 Rojo, before we even go into the game and everything, I talked about this before. I think that Persona 5 had a pacing issue. Certain parts in the story felt it really dragged on, where it took some time to kind of develop in the story, and it's just the way the gameplay works and everything. And there's some parts it kind of feels really rushed, especially towards the end. Oh, we have to get all this stuff and everything, like kind of like Haru's story, which she just kind of gets introduced and then suddenly, they're a team and they have to do stuff and everything. So I felt like I thought this game was going to fix it, but it didn't. It actually added more stuff to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot.
So
I agree too.
that not to say that I love the new stuff, and I actually do want to talk about it maybe later on in the game and everything. I'm sorry, maybe more later in the podcast. But there was the new stuff really. I don't know if you guys know this, and maybe the people here listening. Persona 5 Royal wasn't actually directed by the same guys that did Persona 5. It's a new director that did it. He's the new director that will be doing Persona 6.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
so that gets my expectations for Persona 6 more, because I felt like the Persona 6 content for the third semester was really well written, miles away character development wise from what we had for Persona 5 originally, whether it's what they did with Kazumi or Maruki or Goro Akechi. I feel like they changed so many stuff that I was like, yeah, I really like the way they actually changed that. It made me feel much higher about it, much happier about the changes and everything. Did you guys like the third semester stuff? Without spoiling anything, did you have any opinions about it, or?
I think that the Kazumi, Maruki, and changes that they have applied to Akechi, I think that they have implemented well these changes in the game. Uh, I don't know if people that it's now listening the podcast are have played Persona 4, but in Golden there is a character named Marie that most people felt that she doesn't. It feels strange in the story. It's like an stranger. So a lot of people have felt that Kazumi could repeat this problem in Royal. But I don't think so. I think that Kazumi is well implemented. You can know her at the very beginning of the story, and it's well developed. The end.
The
I'm
only
happy
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, the only complaint that I have about Kazumi's story arc is that it starts really well, and then there's nothing for a good like 2 months, and then you see her again
Yeah.
and her story continues. I just felt like that was just kind of disjointed in a sense. Maruki, on the other hand, I completely felt that it was really well written, and I loved his story arc without spoiling anything. I just thought that his character was extremely fascinating to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, sounds like we are all in kind of this same stuff here. Um, Okay, so I'm kind of reading the comments here as well. So if you see
Okay.
me like going quiet or anything, I'm looking at it and everything. So Persona 5 Royal is the first game that we have that is completely translated in European languages as well as I guess Asian languages as well. I don't know if you guys knew this, but it was also translated in Korean and Chinese, as well as
Yes.
obviously we got Spanish, French, German, Italian. So this is a huge change. Couple months ago, before Persona 5 Royal was announced, Atlas changed into Atlas West. And I thought it was a big deal for the Western community, whether it's America or Europe or Latin America, because in my eyes, I figured that they were going to translate something. I just didn't know it was because to the extent that they did, which I'm very happy for how they changed it and everything. What do you guys think about the change to Atlas West? Did you expect it? Did you expect for them to suddenly say, "Hey, we're gonna be translating Persona 5 Royal in all these languages"?
Yeah, we all when we saw the change in the Twitter account, and so uh, almost everyone jumped out of their chairs like, oh my god, this is going to mean something big, and they are finally acknowledging the European community and the non-English speaking community, because until now we had to like learn English or play it with a guide alongside, or
Mm-hmm.
just suck it up and say, well, I'm not gonna play. I have a few friends who wanted to get into the series before, but the English was a barrier for them because they don't know English that well. And they were like, yeah, I know I will really like this game, but I can't play it since I can't understand it. And it has been like a revolution. It's the first time a Persona game's been translated, and coming immediately after the change from Atlus USA to Atlus West, I think we can take it as a sign that this is going to happen more often. Because if it was only for this time, they
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have went through the hassle of changing the name and so. So I think this is a very good sign. I think this is a result of all the fandom pushing and claiming it and wanting it in Spanish and other
Mm-hmm.
languages. And well, you know, Spanish is one of the most spoken languages in the world, so I think it was a huge success.
Yeah, it was a huge success, and actually, I wanted to bring that up. Alice announced in a sales meeting that Persona 5 Royal sold record-selling numbers, even though they actually didn't give us any numbers. But they did mention that, and this is actually only digital. They haven't even actually revealed physical numbers. And they mentioned that it was due to them localizing the game in Europe in the actual languages. So, as you said, I do expect the games to continue to be translated. That being said, I don't know if all languages will, all games will be translated as well. I guess that's kind of a big question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
for sure.
because there's a difference between a mainline game and a spin-off. Just a side game. For example, Persona Q2 was only subtitled in English. It was actually not dubbed at all or anything, which was a huge deal for a lot of people here in America. So I'm wondering whether Persona 5 Scramble, which is coming pretty soon, will be subtitled, or will we even get a dub in English, or whether we're gonna get a translation in other languages. What do you guys think about that? Do you expect that to be a deal?
I think that it seems quite possible because the sales of Persona 5 Royal have reached good numbers as far as we know.
Mm-hmm.
So I really hope that we can get the scramble in Spanish, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will be kind of a bad move not to translate it, since Persona 5 Royal sold so well in Spanish and it was a blast. Like all the collector's edition were sold out very early. And I
Yes.
think it will be a bad decision not to translate into Spanish, especially since there are so many people who only have a Nintendo Switch and they want the Persona series on Switch. And if they want to show their support, they'll
Mhm.
buy the game,
Okay.
and they'll buy it more especially if it's in Spanish. So
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're completely right. And now I do have a question here from Jose. He was asking whether is that confirmed for the West. So I was actually telling Aeon earlier in private message. I have a leak regarding Persona Fire Scramble. Um, SMT Network, who is a pretty reliable source, gave me the tip that it was gonna be announced in June, and that was before we knew about the expo. The what is that? New Game Expo, whatever. What's it called? Yeah. So as soon as I was telling Aeon about it, literally like minutes later, we saw the news for that, and I was like, yeah, that literally just confirms the leak right there. So yeah, Persona 5 Scramble will be announced during. At this point, it's like almost no doubt that it's gonna happen. So if you guys were wondering about it, the leak pretty much was confirmed right then and there. So I
The
am.
name is New Game Plus Expo.
Yeah, new game. Okay, thank you so much for that. You know, I keep, I made a video about it and I kept messing up. I recorded that video like 4 times because I was like, I can't remember the name, and I have it like written down on my computer and everything. And I kept forgetting about it. Do you guys think that the impact of Persona 5 Royal will mean that we'll get other previous Persona games translated as well, say like Persona 3 or Persona 4? Would you guys like to do that, or is it something like you don't see Alice actually doing?
I pray every night for that to happen. I pray to all the gods and goddesses I know for that to happen. I really think it will be another bad move not doing it, since now there are so many people coming new into the series. Yeah, we all would like to know the previous games, and I think this is a very good moment for Atlus to do so. But I think as much as we want it, it's not very likely to happen. As much as it pains me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
They are very text-heavy games, and the translation of one game like Persona, it's a great deal of work. And I don't know. I'm being negative here.
No, I
I'm
think
not
you're
so
being.
sure.
I think besides being negative, you're actually being truthful and honest. I am actually in the same spot. People tell me all the time whether we're gonna get a translation, or not translation, but a port or a remaster. I was like, look, Atlus is a pretty small company. Sure, they got bought out by Sega, who is obviously a much bigger company, but that doesn't mean they're suddenly gonna start porting everything out and remastering everything and doing all the translation and everything. It's a lot of work, and they still have like 200 people in their Japanese headquarters. So I still think that Atlus is a fairly small company. Probably in the future they'll probably do that at some point if they grow big enough, and it's not because they don't want to do the work, or I'm sure they would like to do all that. If you guys have seen, there's some surveys that they have from time to time. Have you guys seen the surveys before?
Nope.
Okay, so
No, the surveys.
yeah,
Sorry, I misheard. Yeah,
Yeah.
we filled it.
Yeah.
We filled it.
in Japan they release a survey every year, like almost at the end of the year, and something that they asked last year was regarding doing ports for Persona 3 and 4, I think. So it is something that is obviously under consideration. I just feel like they don't have the manpower to actually do it into stuff. But it's my hope. I really sincerely hope that they either remake them or remaster. At this point, I think a remaster wouldn't help anybody because you can easily emulate these games on your computer or, get a PS2 or whatever. So it's not like a port wouldn't do anything, but a remaster or a real, true remake of the game, that's what I would like more than anything.
Yeah, I think Persona 3 needs a definite version, like with all the things from FES and Portable. It's like if you want to get in my opinion, of course, if you want to get the full P3 experience, you have to play both FES and Portable, and it's a bummer. It's kind of a bummer. I only played Portable and the answer part of FES,
Yeah.
and yeah, it felt weird because the change to Portable to FES with the party members being controllable, and so it feels bad, like a huge downgrade. I think Portable is the best version of P3, but it's still not quite it.
Right.
It's not the complete game.
That game aged very poorly. I think I told you guys before we started the podcast here. I'm actually doing a live stream for Persona 3. Originally, my idea was to play Persona 3 FES, right? Because that's, I think that in a sense that's the superior version because it has the answer and it has cutscenes. So I was like, okay, I'll play it. Play this game like many times before, and I got so frustrated and fed up with AI. It kept getting me killed. So if you guys know in the story, I'm sure Aha knows, but at the beginning of the story, Junpei, who is one of the characters, he doesn't like you. So what they did in the gameplay is every time that you put him in a specific set mode, like if you put him for support, he won't heal you. He'll actually ignore and attack instead because he doesn't see you as a leader. You're supposed to be a leader. So he doesn't see you as a leader. So whatever your options may be, he will ignore you. Over time that changes, but he got me to get killed so many times. I was through a boss battle. I was so mad. I was like, you know what? Forget about it. I'm playing Persona 3 Portable. I asked my
Yeah.
viewers. They were like, yeah, it's fine, dude. And I was like, why am I even bothering with this one? But through the story, I feel like it does take some points off because there's certain emotional moments where you kind of don't get the impact of it because you don't have the scene going on. You don't see the characters getting shot or whatever. No spoilers or anything. Yes,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. I think.
But it don't has the same impact.
Yeah, you just
Yeah,
don't
of
get the
course.
same amount of impact there. But going back to Persona 5 Royal that has been recently released, what do you guys think how does that impact Europe, or how does that impact Spain in that sense? Do you think that were a lot of people new? Did you see a lot of newcomers? I know you guys played the game previously to Persona 5 Royal, so how do you see the community growing? What was that like?
It's been a blast. Ion can tell you since she's the administrator of the Discord server, the amount of people coming into the server, talking about the game, asking about the game, becoming interested in the series, it has gone crazy. At least here in Spain.
At least in Spain, the localization has been an incredible impact. Persona 5, the vanilla version, reached very good sales, although the game was sold in English. But the process was someone discovered the game and showed to another, like a secret treasure. So at the end, a lot of people wanted to play it, but they weren't able because of English. So right now, thank you to the localization of Persona 5 Royal, a lot of people that were eager to play it now can play it.
Yeah.
The community has grown a lot. It has been crazy these last days since it was released in March. And we are very, very happy to see those people having fun with the game, knowing the characters. A lot of people is saying that it's the best video game that they have played in their whole life. And wow, it's mind blowing, really.
So sweet seeing people coming new to the series and just getting all hyped and wow, how didn't I play this before? Being so happy, it's heartwarming, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. I'm really glad to hear that a lot of people came in because of that. In the English side, really, I think that what really triggered or jump start Persona was the release and the announce for Joker in Super Smash Bros. Did you guys see that as well, or was that not an impact in the Spanish community?
Yes, that was a really important day because a lot of people didn't know about Joker, and at that moment was like, who's that guy? Who's this guy? I don't know. Who is it? Well, a lot of people at that moment wanted to play Persona, but the problem was the same. The game was in English, so well, they were interested in the games, but until now they couldn't play it.
Okay, okay. Well, yeah, I think I see that here, and when you finish the game, you actually get a an idea of how many people actually worked on the translation for the Spanish translation. Did you guys see that?
Not sure. I know that there is a team, but I don't know how many people are
Okay,
them.
so in the
Oh,
credits,
me neither.
you actually see that there's two people that work on the translation.
Only two?
That's
Two
what the
people.
credit. That's what the credit says. The two people worked on every translation.
No, but that's not right. The credits only mention the testers and the company that it's behind them, but there
Got
are
it. Got it.
a lot of
Okay.
translators
Mm,
that are not mentioned.
that's why I was asking about it because I wondered about that. I'm up here. You guys probably know more information about it.
Yeah.
I have some people from and actually the comments here lead me into the segue that I was going to talk about. So I have some friends that are from Germany, and I have a couple of friends from France as well, and they gave me a couple different opinions as far as how their translation was. For example, German translation has some issues when it came to the grammar. Some things they just didn't make sense, or they used the wrong version of it. France, I heard it was pretty good. How was the Spanish translation for you guys? Did you think it was pretty accurate and fitting? I know that they use Spanish from Spain as opposed to other Spanish like Latin America or Mexico. So, did you, in your experience, thought that this was a good translation?
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Perfect.
it's incredible. But the problem is that we have to take it into account that it's a translation for the European market, which implies that it uses a lot of slangs, expressions that are Spanish ones. So these expressions are not known by Latin American people. In fact, on Twitter, I seen frequently a lot of jokes with phrases in Spanish
Yeah, because
because
there's
they don't
some
understand.
yeah, there's sometimes some reference to Spanish pop culture. Like this was very popular here. Yuji singing a song that's very popular here in Spain, and I think that's not as known in Latin America. And yeah, those kind of things for us Spanish people is great. We loved Oasis of, but I think for Latin American people, it's like they know that's not made for them, and it's a weird feeling because it's like, yeah, we're not the target public of this, so it doesn't feel comfortable, I think. And what I've heard from users from the server and so,
Yeah. Okay.
it's
I
like,
agree with that.
yeah,
That's interesting. I thought that was really interesting to hear. I heard some people talk about it, but I honestly never checked the Spanish. Even though I do speak Spanish, I think that it never really made me wonder how it was until now. But I did hear some people talk about the how local it feels to Spain opposed to the rest of Latin America or so on. I don't see it happening where they will translate it just for Latin America as a separate thing, just because it just wouldn't it wouldn't really make sense in that sense. I think manpower wise more than anything. I don't know how the Sega is. I think the way they reworked Atlus into Atlus West comes from Sega more than from actually Atlus, because they are the ones that have the actual money to put into it, and obviously all of this requires money and manpower. So did you ever see that happening? Do you guys think that it will probably get some time Atlas West that focuses on Latin America as well?
I don't really know about that. I think Atlas West, with this adaptation of Persona 5 Royal, they made a statement because I think, how to say it? How will I say it? Yeah, they made a statement, sorry, translating it to local Spanish from Spain, because it would have been possible to translate it into a neutral Spanish. But they didn't. They used very local expressions, very pop culture references, and I don't think it would have been that hard to make it a neutral Spanish, but they didn't. They could also do two translations, but not two entire separate translations, with one team properly translating, and other team just for localization and changing some slang, changing some references to make it more neutral to the Latin American public, but they didn't. So I'm not really sure this will change in the future, sadly.
Yeah, I don't see it
Uh,
changing either. What about you, Anne? What do you think?
No problem. I think that the problem with the neutral translation is that in the end, nobody likes that because
Mm.
we as Spanish people, it feels like a lack or it feels not appropriate. And probably to the Latin American people, it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it will
We
feel
understand
like
that.
artificial, not
Yeah,
organic.
Mm-hmm.
it's
Okay.
not the way that we are talking like right now. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you enjoy the story, but probably not with the same impact,
Mhm.
my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. I see what you mean, and hopefully we can come to some kind of middle ground here. I think besides actually, oh, I have another question, and this is a question that comes actually from somebody here, um, in the chat here. It just triggered that, but I'm really curious to see how that's gonna change. Maybe at some point it gets more neutral. I don't really see that as an issue. I think that the bigger picture is we actually got a persona in Spanish. You know, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, that's way better than no Spanish at all. At least that's how I see it. You know, like somebody that I grew up in Mexico playing games in English because we didn't get any translations for anything. Mexico is categorized as America, so we only get region one, which is everything in English. So whether it's the DVDs or whether it's at least that was how when I was living there, or the games, we will entirely get them in English. So seeing them come in Spanish is a big surprise for me, at least particularly, and I can see myself as younger self being like, oh my god, you know, they made a game in Spanish. Even if I don't wouldn't understand certain references, I can still understand the overall picture of the game, and that's better than nothing. So I have a question, and this is like a really small complaint that I have of Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 Royal has a character named Jose, right? If
Yeah.
you watch or play the English version of the game, his name is called Jose, which triggered me really bad because if unless you live under a rock or you don't speak Spanish or anything, obviously his name is Jose, but the entirety of the time it bothered me so much that they can call him in Jose. What was that? Did you guys play the game in Japanese with subtitles or English in subtitles? I don't know. How was that?
I played in English with subtitles.
Okay. Did you catch that at all? Did you think that was weird?
Yeah, but I associated it with being like a short version of Joseph, the guy from the Bible, you know. And I didn't think that. Well, anyways, I was calling him Pepe for the whole game, so
Pepe.
I didn't really catch it.
Um,
Yeah. But yeah, now that you mention it, it's kind of feels off. But I assume it was from Joseph, that it's a name in English, Joseph,
mhm.
like Saint Joseph. So I didn't really thought that, but yeah, now that you say it, yeah, it's Jose.
Okay,
That's
so
all.
the real reason is not Jose. His Japanese name, which is actually Japanese name, is Jose, but it just happens that it is spelled the same way in. I'm sorry, the comments are making me laugh.
Capito, the destroyer of worlds.
Oh, oh man, oh man, now I'm completely lost my train of thought right there. Anyway,
You were saying that there are different names.
yeah, yeah.
It's
So,
not
so
the
it's just a
same.
different name. It just happens to be spelled the same way. But here, Ghana and in Japanese is a different name. It's a completely different name. So I thought that it
Yeah,
was really interesting. Um,
the Japanese pronunciation is very similar to the Spanish pronunciation of the language. If you speak not native Spanish, your Japanese pronunciation it's
yeah,
quite
it's pretty
similar.
similar. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Again, the Joe in Japanese is not the same as in us in English with the J. It's more like a yes sound, so it's a different sound that it makes. Anyway, I completely lost my train of thought there, so I'm gonna move on into anything. So, Persona 5 Scramble is on the horizon. We literally just talked about it a little bit ago. As I gave you guys the link, I think that it will be announced soon. What is your thoughts on other Persona games, maybe again like um, in the future? Are you hoping for other Atlus games as well? Like let's say that they do Shin Megami Tensei 5 in Spanish. Was that something that you guys kind of looking forward to, or?
That will be awesome because Shin Megami Tensei is. I will say that it's like absolutely not known franchise in Spain. It's like a ghost.
Yeah.
If we can receive it in Spanish, that will be a dream because, especially now that a lot of people are playing Persona 5 Royal, they are developing interest not only in Persona, but all in other in the saga that give birth to Persona, that it's Shin Megami Tensei. So I'm sure that a lot of people will buy the game if Shin Megami Tensei 5 comes in Spanish.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it will be a big impact for because Shin Megami Tensei is more of a traditional RPG in a sense. Persona is a weird hybrid of its own. I think it's a really good game, but it's so strange because you get to do the role playing aspect, which is kind of like the going into the dungeons and fighting demons and so on. But you also have the other aspect, which is where you're dating girls and hanging out with your friends and doing other random stuff and everything. So I think a lot of people when they get into Persona, they're kind of like, this is the anime experience if you really think about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
completely.
but when you talk about a completely serious RPG, you know, you have the Shin Megami Tensei franchise, which is literally going into the dungeons and saving the world and doing the RPG thing that other games do and everything. So I think they're completely different in that sense. I am excited to hear about Shin Megami Tensei 5, and I don't know. It's one of those things where the more I hear about it, people ask me all the time, like, "Well, what do you think about Shin Megami Tensei 5? When is it coming out?" I'm like, I have no idea. You know, like
Yeah.
it could be anytime
Uh,
now. Did you guys waited for Persona 5, or do you guys jump into Persona 5 as your first Persona game?
I waited for Persona 5 since the first time it was announced.
Like 10
Like the
years ago?
first, yeah, the
yes.
first announcement with all of the chairs and
Yeah.
the chains, and so it's like, oh my god, Persona 5 is coming out 2013.
Yeah,
Wow.
2013. Yeah, oh my god.
Yeah,
That's what happened to me
yeah.
too.
We call Joker chair. Like, oh, the main protagonist is a chair. Yay.
Or we could call him Harry Potter because I don't know what the glasses I think and everything. What about Aeon? Did you start it with Persona 5 or were you also waiting for Persona 5?
I have also know the saga, but my first game owned by myself was Persona 5. So yeah, I know about the news, but it was thanks to a
Hmm.
friend of mine that it's in the community too that showed me the game. He came to my house and we were playing. Wow, that was a blast. Since then, we both the game we played and we love it so much that we had to know more about this franchise. Right now, yes, we have played all the games, but that at that moment I felt that I have to talk with more people about saga, and I didn't know uh, anyone that except for my friend,
Hmm.
and that was the moment that the community was born.
Hmm. Oh, interesting. So I'm a similar situation here actually. So I started playing Persona with Persona 3. A friend of mine, who is from Venezuela, he was like, "Hey, you need to play this game. It's really cool and everything." And Persona 3 FES had just come out at the time, so I played Persona FES, and actually I played original Persona 3 without the FES, and then Persona 3 FES came out, and I was so mad because I was in my playthrough of Persona 3. I was like, "Well, I guess I have
No,
to buy
no,
it.
no.
I have to play it again, I guess." So I played it again, and I've been a fan since then. I went back and played other Shin Megami Tensei games and a bunch of different games and so on. And every time that I see it's interesting to see it from my perspective because I've seen so many changes in Persona. Like after playing Persona 3, I went back and played Persona 1 and 2, and I hated the combat. The combat,
Yeah,
it
I
made me
didn't
so
finish
frustrated.
the
Uh,
games.
and the stories
Great.
are really good. Persona 2 has probably one of the best storylines in the Persona saga, but the gameplay makes it so hard for me to go through it, and I'm like, I can't even go through it. It's just the gameplay is not for me. And I know some people that are now getting into the games. They're like, should I play Persona 2? I'm like, well, at your own risk.
Yeah, I think they are games that have grown so old so fast, and they are not accessible. I think to people who have started playing like Persona 5. If you play Persona 5 Royal and then you go to Persona 1 or Revelations Persona, even worse, you're going to want to jump out of the window. It's so desperating. The combat, the dungeon crawling in first person, which I personally hate with a passion. That's why I never finished Q. It's They are very inaccessible games, so I think it will be a wise choice to remake them. At least to make them a 21st century game, because it feels like I'm playing a game from the ancient eras.
No,
So I would really like to finish them, but I can't find the strength in me to do that.
yeah.
Persona 1 and 2 needs a remake.
That
Need a remake.
those are the games that have really aged really poorly. Like even if you go back and play some Shin Megami Tensei games, they are they are just like so okay. They're like the gameplay is not bad, but for some reason, Persona 1 and 2, they just I don't know, the gameplay just didn't click with me or something. And even as somebody has played many times the games and everything, I'm kind of still like, oh, I don't like the gameplay. I'll play it for the story, but it makes it hard, I guess, for as a barrier entry for some people that are just kind of starting into the games and wanting to play the games and everything. So if I were to vote, if somebody were to ask me which Persona game do you want it to be remade more, my answer will be Persona 3. That is my favorite Persona game. What about you guys? Who is your what game would you want remake the most?
I'd say Persona 3 with the heart, but being honest and realistic, I think 1 and 2 need remakes even more than 3. But they got remade with the PSP ports, remakes, whatever, remaster, I think. They got a remake, so I don't think that will be happening, at least not. It's not very probable, because if
Yeah.
we ask for 1 or 2 remakes, they'll say, yeah, but we already did. They are in the PSP, go play them. But even those remakes feel so old. They are
Yeah.
old, but even for being a PSP game that came around the time of Persona 3, correct me if I'm wrong, they feel like, yeah, this is a game for the people who played the original one, not for newcomers. So
Right.
yeah, if I could get a remake of any game like this moment, I'd say, with all the pain in my heart, 1 and 2.
I strongly agree with Heiha. 1 and 2 are the most needed remakes.
I think so too. Yeah.
It-
Unless you go back and play.
especially.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. I was saying that they need the same gameplay that we have now,
Exactly.
because it's impossible for people to go back, especially if you started with Persona 5, can go back to Persona 1 and 2. That's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
They need the same gameplay that we have now.
Yeah, there is something that needs to happen there. I hope at some point they will do it. Now there is a rumor going on right now, and Pecky Privado just mentioned that, and I had it in my notes here. There is a rumor going on from 4chan, which is completely not true, and I don't believe it. But they're talking about a remake for Persona 1 and 2. As much as I would like to believe that, again, the Persona team is already working on some other projects, and I don't think they have the manpower to go and do all of that. So I don't know. Now, Atlus recently made a change, and I kind of want to segue into this. They made a change in their studio. They went from the P team, which makes the Persona games, and they spread it out into a second team called Zero Studio. You guys know about that?
Nope.
Okay,
Oh,
so Zero Studio is actually working on a new game, a new RPG game. This is obviously with the purchase of Sega and everything. So this new RPG is gonna be a medieval star type RPG. You know, kind of like dragons and knights and that kind of stuff. Typical RPG style with the director and
Yeah.
writing team from Persona. Does that sound like something
it,
that you like to see, like something different from them?
you're saying Project Red Fantasy,
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah, RA
Or it's
Fantasy.
another
That's
game?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I actually remember now.
yeah. So RA Fantasy is a project that they actually talked about quite a bit. Atlas and Sega have actually talked about it being their most worked on project right now. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, Persona is going to pump manpower and everything." No, Sega is dumping all the money into this game. So whatever this game may be into, that's gonna be their big game for Sega and Atlas in the next few years. So what does that make for you guys as a fan of Persona and as a fan of long time here? Are you hoping that this game will succeed, or are you hoping that this will succeed, but you still want to get some other stuff from Persona and so on?
To be honest,
I
I'm
don't.
hopeful for. Sorry, go on, go on.
No, no problem, Eija. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. I'm very hopeful for the changing director because while I think Hashino did a great job with, giving new life to the Persona series, I think we have benefited of having different directors, like in Royal or in Golden. I think there was another director, and I think the series will really benefit from having new fresh air. So for Project Red Fantasy, I am actually intrigued by it, but not so much as for the new Persona games. To be honest, I'm a little tired of medieval fantasy games. It's like, yeah, another medieval fantasy game. Yeah, what else? So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not that hyped for a fantasy. I'm curious, and I will probably buy it because I'm that kind of person. But I'm more excited for the new director because Hashino have some things that I don't really like about it. I could talk about it for hours.
yeah. I think you and I are on the same note on this one, but I want to hear Aeon first, then I'll bring my thoughts on this one. Aeon, what do you think?
Yeah,
I agree. I agree with Eija. I would like to see more about Project Re Fantasy. Seems cool, but we need more info. Right now, I'm more hyped for a new Persona game.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much my thoughts there. We have a new director that will be working on Persona 6, obviously. This guy actually worked on Persona 5 Rojo, and privately we're talking about. I really like a lot of the changes that they did for Persona 5 Rojo when it comes to the actual writing of the game, the character development. I think it was really done really well, and it really shows that this new director has a good vision as far as how to set things up and build up and everything. So I am very hopeful for Persona 6. I think that he's going to be a good director for the series. Do you have any particular expectations or wish list or something that you want to see in Persona 6 different or a change that you would like to see happen?
I want a female protagonist again, please, please. I have a very strong opinion on Persona 3 Portable. My tongue. I have a very strong opinion. I think my personal opinion, of course. I think the female protagonist really adds up to the game for the better. I really think that the female protagonist was better for the game than the male protagonist, and it will be like such a change of view. Well, can you imagine Persona 5 with a female protagonist? Like, yeah, we know the cliche of the male delinquent. Oh, yeah, this guy's so dangerous, but that isn't as common with a girl. So I think that would be pretty interesting, and that was I was hoping for in Royal. We didn't have it. I'm okay with that. But yeah, I really wish they could bring that back. They could bring that back. My tongue. And with Maya, we saw we can have great female leads that aren't necessarily silent protagonists, and I'm hopeful they will bring that back. They offer like a new point of view, and of course in Persona 3 Portable the new social links with the female protagonist were amazing, were great, and I love the option that you could be only friends with this male social link partners, that they made it in Persona 5 too. In Persona 3 the original, you couldn't be only friends with the girls, you had to date them.
Yeah.
In Persona 5 they recovered that, and I am glad for it. But it was a new thing that was added with Persona 3 Portable with the female lead. That was awesome.
Okay, so it had once a female protagonist. I actually being pretty proponent when it comes to having a female lead. I love the female route in Persona 3, and I actually like Maya a whole lot. I think she was a really interesting character. Because one, she's an adult, and I find her to be more relatable than other
Yeah.
character. But at the same time, there's like a completely different layer about the way the game plays and everything, that it just feels more mature. So I'm okay with a female lead. I think that would be a good change. People have talked about doing a change where it comes through either choosing a male or a female. But then that brings a debate as far as like what is canon and what is not canon, right?
Right. That's the problem.
I think, and that's really brings kind of like, well, originally Persona 3 had a male protagonist, so that obviously has to be the canon. But what about the female character that we worked so hard on? Because she has a good storyline and she has her own relationships and her own things, choices that are a little bit different from Persona 3 male. So I think that this brings like a couple different questions there, which obviously we can talk about it for the rest of the podcast here. But what about, and what do you have in mind for a Persona 6 game? Is there something in particular you want to see?
I don't know how they can. How can they do a best game than Persona 5? But I'm sure that Atlus will succeed. Sure of it. Probably, I would like to see another region of Japan, or maybe not in Japan, another localization.
Wow.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Probably localization in the West now with Adult West. No, that could be possible.
Yeah.
But the story and the characters are right for me. I would like to see a female protagonist. Well, the problem is that you mentioned that then the canon, we don't know which is canon, which is not. That generates problems.
Yeah.
So, in that case, I would prefer only a female protagonist, not
Yeah, I agree.
an election.
Okay.
In that case,
Okay, so the only way that I see it working correct, and I'm gonna I'm gonna talk about this, and then I'll be back into Persona 6 in a second. Assassin's Creed Odyssey has an option where you can play as a female or a male. Have you guys heard about that? Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
I've played Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, okay. So in that game, you can play either as a female or a male. And what happens is they're siblings. So when you play it as one or the other, the story is almost the same because they're still siblings. You know, the other person still shows up in the story. So I feel like that's probably the only way that I feel that it could kind of see it working, whether like twins or something like that, and you kind of still get the story, you know, either way or whatever. That's the solution that I had come up with after playing Assassin's Creed. So going into Persona 6, I actually have a couple things that I have like a whole video series on reworking Persona and in a different kind of ways and everything like that. But one of the biggest things that I would like to see is an age change. We get a lot of high school. This is really a niche thing, you know, the typical high school student that fights demons or whatever, and he saves the world, and it's like the anime story, right? But I feel like changing it to maybe like a college setting could be interesting. Do you guys think that would be a good idea? Kind of like going from high school to college, a little bit more mature, but you still get kind of the school setting, but you get it more adult, I guess.
The thing is, college in Japan is very different as it's here in the West. And I think that one of the appeals of being in high school is the relationships that form in high school, and that's why the Japanese are so obsessed with high school settings, because the connections, being all together, being all like in the same place, having friendships, having a blast, is a very treasured thing in Japan. And in college, people are usually more like going their own way uh, in Japan and here. And I think that component of forging a true relationship with your partners will be a little lost in a college setting. Don't get me wrong, I would love it because, yeah, as you said, it's more relatable for us who are adults, you know. But I don't see that happening because of that. The Japanese are very obsessed with high schools and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the power of friendship. We're all partners. We are going into clubs and we are all young and we are free. And in college, that thing kind of fades. So yeah, it's sad now that I say that. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of sad. But yeah, I'm going back into high school this year. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it will be an interesting change if were to be done something different like that. Um, I think that whatever Persona 6 may be, whatever it comes out at, I feel like we will still be pretty satisfied with what we get. I don't think I've ever been disappointed with the way that Persona game has come out so far. So I'm just curious as far as what they're willing to change. Persona 5 in Japan was a very controversial game because it criticized the government. I went to Japan right after the Persona 5 came out, so I kind of saw that in reactions and stuff like that. Did you think Persona 5 was an interesting game in that aspect when it comes to kind of how it criticizes its government and everything? Or did you think it was just kind of like a cliche thing that other games have done it before?
Ion, are you going to?
So
Sorry, could you repeat it? They
yeah,
were
sure, sure. So
calling me.
Persona 5, what it does is a critical is a criticism the government in Japan, as far as like whether it is the way that they control the government or corruption and everything. So that game really, in a sense, addressed all the issues that the government is having right now in a games form, which is not typical in Japan. Japan is a very um, conformist country. They don't
Mhm.
criticize stuff like that. Not in the media like a game. So to see a game that really does address issues like that, like the government and everything, I thought it was pretty interesting. You don't see that in the West often either, where they're actually going and actually point blank saying, "Hey, your government is really uh, doing really shitty stuff and everything." So I thought it was really interesting that they actually went for that setting. In the West, I think a lot of people thought that it was cliche because other games have done it before in story, but I think it had
Mhm.
merit that they actually addressed that kind of stuff in Japan, which is again a more conformist country where they actually don't do much critical on that aspect. So, what do you guys think about that? Do you think it will be similar in Spain, where like would you imagine a game criticizing the government?
Oh
Uh,
yeah, of course, every day. There are a lot of fun games and so criticizing the government, like those little flash games.
mhm.
Yeah, there are a lot. Here in Spain, we are very critical with that. So, yeah, it's more a cultural thing. As you said, in Japan, that's not very common. So, yeah.
We are used to it. We are always criticizing us in every aspect of our lives.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I think that could be possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we have a very different mindset from the people in Japan, and I can see why that game's been more of a shock than here in Spain.
Mhm.
But
Mm.
otherwise, there are things that here in Spain aren't addressed as much as, like, I think this is not a spoiler, the high school students committing suicide.
Mhm.
That thing is talked about in Japan because sadly it's a very frequent thing. But here in Spain, that's like a taboo stuff. We don't even ever talk about it. But on the other hand, the stories of sexual harassment that we deal with in the first part of the game,
Mhm.
I think that's a very delicate topic in Japan. So yeah, it's kind of, we focus on the things that feel more familiar here, and we perceive other things as more uncommon, and that's the thing they shock us. They shock the most. I was very shocked, very shocked with Shiho's suicide attempt.
Yeah.
But the government thing didn't strike me as much because I'm used to it with my
Okay, okay.
mindset.
All right, so different things strike differently. I think it does make sense. I think I was very shocked when you were talking about the suicide attempt and the sexual harassment, and this game was really bold in different aspects where they were
Yeah.
actually really brilliant to bring that up. I think that was one of the best aspects of Persona 5. Well, I didn't like some other aspects as much. I think that this particular, where they were really bold as far as like putting things so graphically, so front and center, was really interesting. For example, when the first time that we meet Anne, and the teacher invites her to kind of go get in his car or whatever, I thought it was super strange. I was like, oh my god, are they kind of like dating or something? Like I was like very confused about it. And then
Yeah.
and then the whole thing about sexual harassment comes out and everything, and I was like, wow, okay, that's like a whole deal. Like I'm sure it resonated with a lot of people and everything when it comes to any of this stuff.
Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, I was really impressed with a lot of the stuff that they went for and everything. Persona 4 dealt with many different issues, and I think we can go into our own discussion about it because it's super long, and and a lot of people talk their own stuff and everything. But I feel like every game really deals with different issues, and it always does in a pretty respectful manner. I think some people may disagree with that. I know some people that don't like the way that Persona 4 dealt with sexuality and everything.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I'm really critical with Persona 4.
And I think, in a sense, every game has its own little things. For example, Catherine. Have you guys played Catherine?
Yep.
So Catherine deals with a lot of other mature issues that it wouldn't be appropriate in something like Persona, right? The whole thing about
Yeah,
cheating.
the high school setting,
And that's why I really like Catherine. The story, although I don't like the endings that they're really stupid and silly. Some of them, I really like the idea of the setting and what they do, because that's something that all the people, all that you meet, all the men that you meet really are all really terrible men. They just, and some of the ideas that they have, some of the things that they say are really like, I was like, oh my god, like this is a men conversation. Like if you were sitting somewhere and you were watching with a bunch of guys, you can hear some guys talking stuff like that. And a lot of the stuff and I thought it was really interesting how they dealt with completely different issues, and it was still really interesting. I, more than the team itself, I like seeing it being discussed. We were talking about how Persona 4 deals with sexuality, and you disagree with the way that they did it. And I feel like while it did, in a sense, maybe didn't deal with it appropriately, it still opens room for a discussion. And that's what I like about Persona. Whether they dealt with it appropriately or not, it still has a discussion as far as whether it's opening up to your sexuality or exploring your sexuality or anything of that stuff. Is still a subject worth discussing that a lot of teenagers may be having doubts with. How do I feel about it or whatever. And at least the game addresses that, which I feel like some other games, especially in the West, are not willing to address things like that. And that's why I like Persona in that way.
Yeah, it's very like how do you say that? Not realistic, but very crude, like very raw.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this is an issue that happens. Like Kanji in Persona 4 is being ostracized for his likings, not only his sexuality, which is an ambiguous thing I won't discuss here, but because he likes girly, typically girly things, and they address is like, this is a thing that really happens, and this is something people are going through, and they deal with it in better, worse way, whatever. But yeah, like in Persona 5, I think Kamoshida is the best villain for me, because it's very realistic. Like you really believe there could be someone out there doing that, and it's very raw because it's a very taboo topic, like sexual harassment in high schools, pedophilia, and so it's a delicate matter that isn't discussed as much, but we all know it happens, and it's brave for a game especially for a Japanese game, to address that like that head on. Like, this is a thing that happens, and this is bad, and no one's doing a thing to it. That's why I like Kamoshida the best, because the other villains were very good, but were more like, yeah, well, there's this bad guy, and we
Yeah.
all know this is a bad guy, and yeah, the thief is a bad guy. But Kamoshida was like, he didn't even feel he was a bad guy. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it,
exactly.
it's terrifying.
Totally
I
agree with
was
you.
really terrified through all the Kamoshida arc.
Hmm.
It really spoke to me, to my core, and I was furious with him, with no other enemy or villain in any video game.
All right. So, what about you, Anne? Was there something particularly in the game that really struck you or really wrong with you?
Maybe, but well, it's a bit of a spoiler, so I don't know if I can say it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe the treason. If they say treason, I think that everyone that has played the game maybe can
Well,
understand what I'm referring to. That night, I was playing the game that night, when I understand all the story behind the traitor, I couldn't even sleep. It was horrible. It affected me a lot.
yeah, yeah. I feel like that is actually a trope from Persona. All Persona games has like this betrayer or this person that betrays you in some kind of way throughout the story, and every time it plays out very different. Like whether it's Persona 3 or Persona 4, or in this game, is like a twist that you don't really see coming, but in a really different way. And I think all of them are really handled extremely different. But I think some of them work better than others. I think Persona 3's betrayal to me was very shocking because I didn't see it coming at all. Uh,
Yeah, same.
I was actually that was for me that was the best twist in the series because it hurts because you spend a lot of time with that character and you really don't see it in that you don't see him like that. And this one I think that it was interesting. I didn't think it was really good. Persona 5 Royal fixes that a lot, thankfully, and I think makes that better. But it's an interesting change. Um,
I was spoiled for Persona 5 Straighter. I already knew when I started the game, so yeah, it was a bummer.
oh, that
I
is
feel I
sad.
was robbed. Yeah, and in
Yeah,
Persona 4, kind more or less
He
the
gave it
same.
away.
But yeah, but in Persona 4, I liked even more. Even if Persona 4 is my least favorite game, I really love the twist, the villain of Persona 4, because it feels so ruthless. Like, yeah, this person is like here living as a normal, likable person, and deep down, he's the worst. Yeah, it kind of stuck with me because it's like we don't really know what's hiding under these normal looking people, and I
Right.
think that sense of normality with this character being all goofy and happy and yay, wow, that was really powerful. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
we don't really know what's hiding beneath the mask.
That was really well put. I like that a lot. Good job.
Thank you, thank you.
So we were talking about the villains there, and I kind of want to talk about this because that was actually one of my biggest issue when it came to Persona 5. I think that Kamoshida was a really strong villain. Like the first 10 hours of the game, you're on shock. You're on like I wanna do all this stuff. We need to beat this guy. He's a total piece of crap. And then when you get to the next villain and so on, it kind of waters down that experience. I almost feel
Yes.
like the villains in Persona 5 opposed to the first one or maybe the last one, they're all really kind of cartoon villain, like the ones you will see in another anime or maybe in like all the cartoons, just kind of like the bad guy with the mustache and they're doing the bad
Yeah.
stuff and everything. And but Kamoshida really, that's why I kind of found the later villains so underwhelming in that sense. Sure, they're really bad people, like Okamura abusing his employees and making them work and not paying them well. That is in and of itself an actual issue in society, and I can see that being something that a lot of people that work feel. I totally they see that. Or the guy that stores people for money and makes them sell drugs and everything. That is an actual issue. Like all of those things are definitely villains and people that do affect society in some kind of way, but they never really impact the same way that Kamoshida impacts you. He was a really powerful villain, I think. Besides everything else, now the new villain for Persona 5 Royal, without kind of explain much, I felt like he was a completely different type of villain than Persona never seen in any of the games, and
Absolutely.
I really, really like the way that he was written. Whether it's the stuff that he does, or whether you agree or disagree, he was a villain that had so much to say about the society that we live in, but in a good way too. And I don't know. Even at the end, I felt like my choice was wrong. Like when you get that true ending and everything, I was like,
Yeah, same.
yeah, but I feel
Same,
so
same
bad.
totally.
I feel like I am doing something that it feels bad to me. It just feels something that it kind of felt.
It's like,
I don't want to say that felt. I don't want to say the word dirty, but it made me feel wrong.
I know I'm doing the right thing, the thing that will be called the right thing usually, but at the same time it feels bad because it's this kind of villains. I don't like to call him a villain because I
Hmm.
don't think he's one,
Hmm.
but you kind of agree with him. You see his point and you say, yeah, I think I know this is bad, but he has a point.
Hmm.
Ah,
He's doing what he thinks is right, and it's just my views that doesn't align with his. So that's
Right.
why we have to fight. But ah, I get so emotional.
Yeah, the calling card for that villain. I'm gonna call him a villain because I don't want to spoil him or anything. Is so powerful too. It's so personal. Meeting him person to person and kind of like that conversation and everything, it is more powerful than some of the other calling cards. I thought that it was such an interesting concept. And again, I don't want to spoil more than what I'm already saying here. Uh,
I want to talk about all the spoilers.
well,
me
if
too.
everybody in the chat here is okay with us talking about spoilers, we can actually start a spoiler discussion. I don't mind.
We can open the gate.
It's pretty late in the podcast. I think we're already over an hour into it, and I can just put a mark here that we talk of spoilers about it at this point. Will that be okay with you guys? Is anybody in the chat on the video here okay with that? Just let me know if
I know that Felix hasn't
he
played
hasn't played.
Royal.
Okay, okay, okay. Sounds good. We're not gonna spoil it for him then.
Yep.
Uh, but I do appreciate I appreciate you guys talking about this because it's really interesting, and this is a conversation that I actually made like a video about it because I was like I really want to talk about it so bad. I liked a lot of the good stuff there. Um,
Yeah,
is
it's a really big change of pace
mhm.
because all the villains in P5 are like, yeah, we are bad, we are evil, we want to do bad things because we are bad people. And this one is like, I couldn't really bring myself to hate him or
Mhm.
anything. Like, you're not bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm shutting up now.
It's a difficult topic, really.
Yeah, we're really kind of like trying to dodge the spoilers with talking about it and everything. No, it happens.
Yeah, it's like walking on lava. Like,
Yeah. Now let's talk about something that I think from here on I actually just questions that I have from some of the viewers here. If you guys in the chat wants to actually ask some questions, you can definitely do it. Aeon, I know you guys had some notes. Did you guys have anything that we missed so far, or did you talk about what you wanted to talk so far?
About
I
my
think
notes, I'm the
yeah,
girl of the notes,
Hmm.
right?
yeah, she's very well prepared, more than me. I just came here and started talking.
Well, I would like to say that um, um, by recent news, it's well known that Persona Royal has achieved record sales in the
Hmm.
West, according to Sega financial record. So, in the case of Spain, we also have some data about the physical sales.
Oh, you do?
Sorry,
Okay.
about the physical sales
You do?
of
Oh, okay.
Persona 5 Royal in Spain in its first week. But it only talks about the physical sales, not the digital sales.
Okay, okay.
It has been more than 8,000 units. For reference, the original Persona 5 has sold about 12,000 since it was put on sale in 2017, physical and digital. So I think that they're important sales.
Okay, so you bring an important point when it comes to how much it actually sold better than the previous game. It's always good to have the numbers because it doesn't. When somebody says, "Well, it sold better," it doesn't really mean much unless you actually hear numbers, and it sounds like way better than the previous one. Obviously, we talked about us, it may be that impacting them future games, translating them into other languages and everything. So I want to tie that into something that I actually had in my notes here that I hadn't even talked to you guys about, and that is Switch ports. That is a popular subject in media. I see people talking about it in online all the time, and I am somebody that is but it's part of Persona, so we have to talk about it. It's something that I always kind of like. Oh, you know what? I do want to switch port. I don't. It doesn't really hurt me in any particular way. It doesn't happen. We have a PS4. I'm okay with playing it on PS4. But there is a lot of people that want to play Persona on the Switch. So, what are you guys' thoughts on this one? Is this something that you would like to see? You don't care for it? What are your opinions, Aeon?
I would like to see it because I'm a Switch owner, and well, play in Persona on the go. That will be amazing, an amazing experience for sure. I would like to have a little version of Persona 5 on my Switch. Yeah, and playing. I'm a person that normally travels a lot. When we in the past when we could travel, right now it's difficult. But yeah, the Switch is a really important console, a really important system to me because of that. To be able to play Persona 5 in another country, for example, or in another far ago from my house, I would like it a lot.
Yeah, I think it will be an interesting change. This reminds me obviously of Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden, because those are games that we actually could play on the go in the PSP and the PS Vita. Eha, I know you mentioned that you like Persona 3 Portable on,
Yep.
obviously. So what would you think about doing that on the Switch with the previous games like ports for P3, P4?
I kinda disagree a little. Not fully disagree, but I think the Persona games are more like a game that you play at your house, in your sofa, with lots of hours. And I feel these are games that are best played at home. But yeah, I kinda get it that you want to play it on the go. But even if with P3P and P4G, I actually kinda played it all at home. I never played them on the go. Well, P4G, yeah, I played outside, but not that much. And while I get a Switch port, will be very convenient. Like Ion said, I don't kinda see the need. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, if you travel a lot, yeah, that's an issue. But I don't know. It's like I don't
He doesn't.
kind of see.
It sounds like you actually don't have an opinion in it. Like you're okay either way, whether it's
Yeah,
one or the other way.
I'm okay, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, they want a port for a Nintendo console, and I'm about to say something here that will make people hate me. But yeah, I have a PSP, I have a PS4, I have a Switch, I have very many consoles, and I never asked for Nintendo exclusive games to be playable on Sony consoles. And I think that's a little bit unfair because if there's an exclusive game, it's an exclusive game. And if you want to like make games in every platform, you gotta do it for every game. I never asked to play Pokemon on my PSP, for example. Why should they give the Persona series to the Switch? And they're getting it with Scramble. If they want the Persona series in Switch, they should support Scramble. And yeah, I think that's a great confession for on the behalf of Sony and Atlus. Yeah, if I will be happy if they make the Switch port. I just don't see the need for it. If you want to play Persona, just buy a freaking PS4.
you
I
know,
bought mine to play Kingdom Hearts.
I feel the same way in a sense. I have a different opinion, but I have a similar feeling. I own an Xbox. Well, I owned plus 10s. I don't have an Xbox anymore. I don't have any games to play on it, so I sold it. But I have a computer, obviously, and I have my PS4, and I have the Switch, and I have all these consoles. I never really had a need for, like, I wasn't ever on any camp like, oh, PS4 is better than Xbox or whatever. In my sense, I'm like, if I can play in a game on it and the game is good, then I'll buy the system for it. That's always kind of been my train of thought. When I bought a 3DS, I bought a 3DS because I wanted to play the Pokemon games and
Same.
whatever you like to play in it. I bought a Switch because I wanted to play Breath of the Wild. If if I didn't have a Switch, I didn't see anybody going, we want a port of Breath of the Wild on PC or on PS4. Everybody knows that it's a Switch game, a Nintendo game. Nobody's going there crying about a Zelda game on the PS4, which is, frankly, I will definitely like to play Breath of the Wild on the PC.
Same.
Or the PS4. Like, that will be better because Switch does have some limitations that we can obviously talk about and everything. As somebody that plays the Switch a lot, when I played the Persona version of Scramble on the Switch, it ran. I'm gonna curse a little bit. I hope you guys don't match.
Nah.
It ran like crap. It ran complete ass. There's an issue with the frame rate, and it's there. And especially when it's really busy with a lot of the characters and everything, I am really curious to see how people are gonna react to it once the game actually comes out. But when you're fighting, have you guys played Scramble? I completely didn't even ask you guys that.
No, I didn't, but my partner, Peggy, who is in the chat, hi
Mm-hmm.
Peggy, he already did. He played the Switch and the PS4 versions because we have both consoles.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he told me the exact same thing, that the Switch version runs very laggy and has some issues. The visual aspect
Mm-hmm.
is a little bit with sawtooth and so yeah, I don't really think the Switch is a console to those for those kind of games. I think Breath of the Wild is an exception. But I think Switch is more suited for games that aren't that heavy in that aspect, that they require so much technical specifications. Switch is more for games that are more simple, not simple, but yeah, you get me.
Yeah, no, I get it. But on the other hand, I also get people wanting to play the games on the Switch, on the go, and everything
Yeah.
like that. That's the one of the things that I like about it, because I like playing games on the go. But at the same time, I understand the whole, well, you just buy a PS4, the games
Yeah.
are already there and everything. It's like when people ask me where can I play Persona 3. I'm like, well, technically, if you want to buy a PS3, you can play all the games. It plays everything. Or
Yeah, or a Vita,
or a
even
Vita.
if
Yeah, exactly. You can buy a
play with
Vita and you can play them.
PlayStation Vita.
And you can play all of them, actually. If you play a PS Vita, you can play Persona 1, 2, Persona, the other two, and then 3, 4. The only ones you couldn't play is basically 5. Yeah, obviously, but everything. Now, I have a question for you guys. Based on what we've seen from Atlus, it does look like they're actually testing the waters for more games on the Switch. When you see that they are making Catherine and obviously Persona 5, Scramble, they're obviously trying to see whether the market's there for them. Do you guys agree with me there, or do you feel like they're just kind of putting whatever?
Yeah, agree.
Yeah,
Because
go on, sorry.
no problem. Atlus is trying to. I think that they're trying to release more games on Switch. In fact, in July we have Catherine Full Body. So I think it's has a high probability to have more Atlus games in the Switch on the future. Maybe, well, if PlayStation 3 is capable of running Persona 5, probably Switch could too. So maybe it's a possibility in the future.
Yeah, maybe it's a possibility. If you guys didn't know this, Japan got Katrin in this in the PS Vita, which is something that we actually didn't get here in the West. So I was so curious that it ran well on the in the Vita, and now it's coming out on the Switch. So in my mind, I'm like, well, if you can run Katrin, then why don't you release more games on the Vita? Because it's the home console for play for Persona games and everything. What about something like Shin Megami Tensei? Obviously, that's a very Nintendo property. All the Shin Megami Tensei 4 came out on the 3DS, and then there's other SMT games on the 3DS. Do you see Shin Megami Tensei 5 coming to PS4, like the opposite situation where people want SMT 5 on the PS4 opposed to Persona 5 on Switch?
To be honest, I think that will be wise getting SMT5. Well, if it ever comes out, of course,
Oh,
for the
We
PS4 or
hope
even
so.
yeah, or even PS5, because now more people are coming to the series, but at the same time it's weird because you know how Persona 5 dropped the Shin Megami Tensei from the title. I think that they're kind of
yeah.
trying to detach from the Shin Megami Tensei series, but at the same time, you can't erase it, you know? So I think when people come to P5, they will want to play SMT5, and when they want to play it, they will want to play it in the PS4 because they played Persona 5 in the PS4. So it will be weird not to take a SMT5 for PS4. It will be weird. Like, yeah, why one series on the PS4, one another series on the Switch? It's I don't know why do they do that. To be honest, since PQ came for 3DS,
Hmm.
and there are SMT games for PS2 like Digital Devil Saga, which I
Or
personally love.
yeah, or Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, which is on the PS2
Yeah,
as
not
well.
sure.
That's why I was so confused when it didn't come out on the PS3. When it came out on the 3DS, I was like, well, the previous game came out on the PlayStation 2.
It's weird.
That's why I bought originally. There was two games that I wanted to play on the. I mentioned Pokemon earlier, and otherwise the other one was SMT4. But other than that, I was like, why is the change? Like, I need to know why. Obviously, that's not something they're probably ever gonna come out and say. Have you guys played the combination of SMT and Fire Emblem game that they came
Well,
out? I don't even wanna. I didn't want to bring this one up because I have strong feelings about it. But have you guys played Tokyo Mirage Sessions?
nope. I
Oh,
didn't have a Wii U, so yeah.
All right, so
I
this.
I would like to purchase it for my Switch, but it's on pending status pending right
Oh,
now.
it's still pending. Okay. Uh, so
I
so.
was so disappointed with it because I really like the Fire Emblem series,
Mhm.
and we all thought a lot of things when that announcement came out. But yeah, it was confusing to say the least.
Yeah, that was an interesting game when it was announced. I had something completely different. I'm a huge fan of both series, SMT and Fire Emblem. So we saw that it was gonna be releasing and everything, I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. Like I can see some pretty interesting stuff. What we got
Yeah,
was something that I didn't know what this was, and I don't think it's bad inherently. Like as an RPG, I don't think it's a bad RPG. I think that a lot of the mechanics are really good and the gameplay is really fun. But it doesn't work for me when it comes to the actual story. I'm not into idols and that kind of stuff, and that just was a huge turn off for me when it came to the actual game. I was like, oh, like I just don't. I'm not into that kind of stuff at all.
That's not my
same.
thing either.
That's how I feel about the dancing games as well. I know there's some people that love the Persona dancing games. I love Persona 4 dancing because if the story was funny and just kind of seeing the characters again and everything. But when we got to actually play Persona 5 and Persona 3 dancing, there was like no story. It was just like the gameplay and that's it. Did you guys like those games, or what was your thoughts on those?
I prefer Persona for dancing too because it has a story. Persona 3 and 5 dancing doesn't have any of it. So I'm with you. I agree with you totally. Yeah.
I don't have a strong opinion of this because I only play like casually. I didn't beat the games, nor the story, nor all the songs. That was my partner who did it, and I saw him play, so I kind of know about it. But I think the dancing games are very interesting because the one thing that shines brightly in the Persona games is the music. So I saw it and I thought it was a natural progression of things, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it made sense in that sense. Wow, that was weird. That was a
Yeah.
weird sentence. Because Atlus makes those games. So Sega was purchased by Atlus, right? And Sega makes the Hatsume Miku dancing games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Project Diva. Yeah.
yeah, Project
I
Diva
love
games.
them so much.
So it was super easy for Sega to go, okay, well, we have the engine, just port the characters and just have them dance. And it's free money. And because I mean, I'm sure there was not a whole lot work into them. The dancing games are fun, and I'm not trying to say that they're not fun. Well, the music, like you said, is fantastic. I love the Persona music. So I buy the games for the music. It's not for the story that they have or lack of story in the new ones. But I don't know. Like you said, it makes sense because of the music aspect. I just didn't expect them to be a thing. Whenever the first one was announced, I was like, why? That was my first question. I was like, why? Why is this thing? But it's okay. That I mean they're good games, and the dancing is really fun. I like that aspect of it.
I like it too. The guy is good at making dancing games.
Yeah, and it felt so good just watching the P3 characters dancing and having a good time, no worries, being happy. Wow, it
They're
really struck.
happy.
Yeah, it struck here in my heart.
Yeah, in Persona 3 because they're just literally just dancing and relaxing and stuff. Especially because Persona 3 is such a stressful game and things are happening all the time. I think it's a more stressful game than Persona 5 or 4. Sure, things are happening and people are dying, but in Persona 3 it's kind of like it's a time pressing kind of like this is
Yeah.
the end of the world, and you know this is the end of the world from the beginning of the game. It's not like in the other games where kind of like, oh, here it's the end of the world happening, so you better beat this guy.
Yeah, I
Uh,
really like that from P5 because it's like, oh yeah, well, suddenly there's this thing going on. Yeah, you know that. And in P3, it's like a more natural progression, you know. I'm not spoiling P5. I almost went
you
too far, but
almost
yeah.
went, but it's okay. You stopped yourself just in time. Uh, all right, so we went through pretty much all I have here in my notes here. Was there anything that you guys wanted to discuss and you guys kind of feel strong about that we can talk about?
My part, that was all. Yeah, that were my notes.
Yeah. I don't have any notes, so well, all I have to say is please in future P5 games let us date Yusuke, please. That's my only that's my only wish.
Oh man, I would like to see another Persona Arena game. And I'm sorry, I just bring that up because you were talking about that, where other characters come back to the stories and everything. In Persona
Yeah,
4
that would
Arena,
be
you get to see the characters from Persona 3 again, but older, and you kind of see their story progression and everything. And it was a really good comeback to the series where you kind of see them all, and you know, you find out that Junpei kind of played in minor leagues for baseball, and that you get like nitty stories for everybody. And I was like, okay, this is cool. You can see more about them and everything. I would like to see that happening again, so we can meet previous characters and everything. And maybe we can get Yusuke again on a separate game and everything. I don't know. I like all this stuff. Thank you guys for coming in. It's been a really fun talk with you guys. Just kind of talking about it and everything. Spoilers will be a good talk, but I think there's some people here that haven't finished the game, so I don't want to spoil it for them and everything. That's one thing that I would have liked to jump in, but again, I don't want to spoil to anybody that hasn't finished the game at this point yet. So thank you so much for coming in the chat. You guys have been pretty cool, keeping it active and chatting and everything. And yeah, check them out. Persona Spain. Again, I have their social media here. So if you guys want to go and check any other pages or anything, you can find them everywhere.
Yeah.
we're everywhere. Yeah.
I want to say thank you so much for inviting us, for giving us this chance. I had a blast, really. I was so nervous at first, but yeah, I really had fun, and thank you so much again for inviting us.
Yeah, it
We
was
were
cool.
so nervous.
Yeah,
No,
we were like, oh, I'm panicking.
I don't know.
Has been
It
it's been
was.
our first podcast in English,
Oh,
so
really?
we
Okay.
were panic.
No, no, you guys did really good, and I really do appreciate you guys kind of like coming into the channel and everything. I mentioned this before, but you guys are my second actual guest in the podcast. Last time I had three people come in at the same time, and we had a 5 hour discussion about spoilers and everything. Uh, but I do appreciate you guys. You have a completely different perspective on some issues and some stuff, and I always find I like to see other issues and other aspects that you guys see completely different. Because it makes me I have a completely different conversation. Like this conversation was completely different from what I had on the other one. So I like that a lot. Thank you for coming in, guys. So yeah, and that's pretty much all I have here.